My name is Andrew Gouache, and this is my Feedr project for General Assembly JavaScript Remote. The Feedr project is a project that we have where we needed to use an external API and retrieve data and take that data and put it into a web page that became a personal feed. We were given a skeleton on the project, and the skeleton was pretty basic with a header along with a center body where we were supposed to fill in the data. Um, and then we were supposed to build the page upon that. There are a couple technical requirements, feed rules, as well as additional UI interactions, some bonus things we could reach for, along with the necessary deliverables. What I chose to use was the Stock News API. The Stock News API is a web-based API that provides real-time and historical market data, including stock news, financial statements, and financial ratios. The API allows developers to access a wide range of financial data, including stock prices, company financials, and news articles. Within this, as we can see on this page here, we have individual tickers along with multiple tickers that are going to be used in the same news search. We have general news, which is exactly that. We also have all news, which is down here, and this is literally going to be every news article that this API chooses to store. I have the top 50 stocks that are mentioned within any specific range and or a day. We have a sentiment analysis, and this is exactly what it is. I'll actually click on one of these so we can see what that data brings. And it literally is each stock here, along with you can use this on each article if you'd like to, and it gives you the sentiment for that stock on any specific day based on how many positive, negative, and neutral articles there were, along with all the historical data there. We also have top events and trending headlines. I tried to incorporate as much of this into my project as possible. Now I'd like to go over how I incorporated each one of these individual calls as much as possible into my page. So the first one was if we call an individual stock. Mullen is one of my favorite stocks, so I'm going to go ahead and search. As we can see, we pull up all articles that are just related to Mullen. If we'd like to search, we'll say for multiple stocks, we'll say Amazon, ANZN, and Google. It'll bring up all the articles that involve Amazon, Alphabet, which is Google, and Snowflake stocks. Then we have the general news, which is incorporated. If we just click this, we go back to the home page. This is the general news as what is displayed naturally on the page. All of the news, which I haven't incorporated in here. I'm not sure if there's a reasonable way to incorporate that. It's literally hundreds of thousands of articles. The top 50 stocks, as we can see, I limited that to 10. I just wouldn't imagine right now I would want to know every stock on the page. Sentiment analysis. As we can see, as we hover over each one of these over here, they have a color. It's color coded based on the sentiment of that article. Green being positive, white being neutral, red being negative. The top events, they're all listed over here. And if you click on each event, it will bring up all of the articles on the left side related to that event. And then lastly are the trending headlines. This was one of my crowning jewels, the scrolling head bar at the top there, or head banner. It was really hard to kind of get that in, but it's more CSS, so I'm not going to break that down here. There were several technical hurdles that I had to overcome in this project, and one of the first is CORS. CORS are cross-origin reference sharing. It's a security feature implemented by many browsers. Essentially, it's there to protect you from loading in data that is not from a trusted source by checking where these things are hosted. It's something that I had to kind of become basically comfortable with. And I did this through a lot of research and experimentation. I used Chrome, and I think the thing that I returned negatively most back was the no access control allow origin header when it was not present. So that is something I had to deal with, and I did overcome that by becoming comfortable with it on a basic level. Another thing that I had to overcome was the dynamic content loading. As we can see, as the page is running, this data over here on the left, we want to change while leaving the rest of the page stable and the same. So we'll go back over here. We'll make a search for my favorite Mullen. And come on. Come on, Lee. Mullen. And replaces the data over here. I just accomplished this through basic vanilla JavaScript. I'm a big fan of just basic vanilla JavaScript and using the inner HTML to basically replace what was there with new data that I choose to put in. Another technical hurdle was the search functionality and really being able to encapsulate and maximize the potential of the API. So I'm just going to reset the page here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to search for, we'll say Google and Tesla. And with this search functionality, I really needed to be able to filter out whether I'm using one stock, multiple stocks. Are we going to add in Amazon in there? Do we want Amazon? And then when we search, do we want CNN, New York Times, CNBC, Market Watch, Forbes, and we'll say those right there. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to execute this search. And when we executed that search, I was taking a snapshot of the data that we used in the input along with the possible news sources up here. And I used an algorithm that filtered through what that data was to make the appropriate API call. One of the things that I found to be the most powerful, and it's not even completely JavaScript, but it's, I feel, very necessary or was very helpful when needing to carry information from the page to HTML. And the way that we do this is through data sets. And this is not something I was aware of using before, but every time I load in a new article on the left, I really wanted to carry along some other information, the URL, maybe the URL picture, or the URL for the picture, along with maybe the article and the text maybe that's within the article. So as we do that, come on the page here, we can see that when we click this, the background is the same background as the picture over here. So when we click that, we have the same background. And I accomplished this through essentially storing this data on the page through the data set property in the HTML. And I found this to be immensely useful. The last thing that I'll say that I became immensely comfortable with and that I learned through this project was how promises work. Promises have one of three states: fulfilled, pending, or rejected. And when you use the fetch method, which is what I prefer to use when making API calls, it returns in one of two manners. It's either fulfilled or it's rejected. When a promise is fulfilled, it triggers the function called a resolve function, and that handles the resulting value. When a promise is rejected, it triggers the function called a reject function, and that handles the errors. So when you're making a call, you expect it to have one behavior, but promises always return. So when you make a bad API call, we'll say with a wrong domain name, what you really want to check for are other pieces of data that the API returns. And I really learned how to utilize fetch, I feel, effectively, along with parse through the other data, in order to maximize utilization. Thank you. I really do appreciate the opportunity for this project, and I hope you enjoy Feedr by Andrew Gouache, JavaScript from General Assembly.